your pronouns and preferred name. So my pronouns are she, her, and my preferred name, I'm pretty cool if you guys just call me Tiny, TinyLeaf, or Leaf. I don't really want to put my real name out there and make it very popular because I kind of consider my identity in real life and my identity online to be a little bit different, so Tiny's just fine with me. What kind of career are you studying to have, aka what kind of portfolio are you hoping to build with these videos? So I'm currently studying mass media, specifically multimedia, which means I kind of work with the more visual aspects and audio aspects, so editing, script writing, design. It's really interesting stuff. So what I'm kind of hoping to do is that I can use this YouTube channel to sort of demonstrate my skills, learn new things along the way, and sort of just refine my own ability to perform in front of a camera because I would really like to do something like this in the future more professionally. What's your favorite aesthetic and why? So my favorite aesthetics, I've always loved ocean aesthetics, pirates, deep sea monsters, island, but my absolute favorite would have to be mermaid aesthetics. I have always been a mermaid girl, so just hands down, anything involving mermaids, whether they're beautiful or terrifying, chef's kiss. What's your favorite video game, movie, and or series? So my favorite video game is probably Luigi's Mansion. It was one of the first games that I ever felt really strongly about, just kind of the way that it builds the atmosphere. I love Luigi just as a character. And it was like baby's first horror game for me, and ever since then, it's just always been something I hold near and dear to my heart, so it just feels fitting to make it my favorite video game. My favorite movie is Fantastic Mr. Fox by Wes Anderson. It's easily one of the most visually appealing movies I've ever seen. The humor is spot on, and it's stop motion animation, so how can you not love it? And my favorite series, this question didn't specify what kind of series. I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but I would probably say The Wilds. I'm very excited for the second season. But favorite podcast series, I'd probably say The Adventure Zone, specifically the Balance Arc. I cried so hard at the end. Highly recommend it for everybody. What other franchises do you enjoy? So I love Nintendo games, especially the Mario Brothers and Pokemon. Undertale holds a special place in my heart as well. It was probably the first video game that I got really involved with the fandom with. I've jumped out of it since then, but Undertale's just a good game, the music is awesome, and I'm trying to find the time to play Deltarune as well. I said before that I like the Adventure Zone, although I'm currently behind on the current season, Ethersea, but it's been really fun. The McElroy brothers have always been very comforting for me, especially during the panorama. The Magnus Archives falls in the same vein. That was a podcast that finished earlier this year in March. I also cried during that. What else? I'd like analog horror as well. Gemini Home Entertainment, The Walton Files, Local 58. It's honestly hard for me to say I'm invested in entire franchises because I really enjoy picking and choosing different entries to obsess over one at a time, and I kind of tend to lose interest very easily. So it's honestly a bit surprising that I've hung on to Danganronpa this long, and part of that is because it's now my YouTube channel. What are some of your favorite fictional worlds and works, and who are some of your favorite characters? And would you want to talk about them more in future videos? So the Adventure Zone is one of them. In the Amnesty arc, one of my absolute favorites is Duck Newton. I can't even describe how much I love Duck without basically spoiling the entire arc, but he is such a good character. He's very normal, and that's part of the reason why I love him. Watch and listen to the Amnesty arc if you're interested. I really enjoy it. The Magnus Archives is also a very interesting world to just insert your own characters into and sort of figure out how they would function in a world like that. Again, I'm not spoiling it because the reason why it's so interesting doesn't get revealed until season 3. But one of my favorite characters in it is the titular character, Jonathan Sims. He was one of the first asexual characters that I ever encountered back when I was still trying to figure out my sexuality. So kind of seeing someone like him be the hero of the story, well, hero, I really enjoyed getting to see someone that would I eventually be able to relate to deeply be the hero of that story. I'm honestly not too invested in many fictional worlds and characters because I tend to have my interests jump around. A lot of the worlds that I'm attracted to, if I can find a way to insert my own personal characters into it and kind of make AUs out of them, those are the kind of worlds that I really like to at least talk about. But specifically with the Adventure Zone and the Magnus Archives, talking about them in future videos, I would really like to. The challenging thing is that because they are so audio-based, visuals would be very difficult to do. But honestly, I think it'd be very interesting to talk about Jonathan Sims as a piece of asexual representation, because I think he might be one of the more well-done versions. Same thing with Duck. He's not asexual, but he's really special to me. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm not too certain. What got you into wanting to look deep into stories, themes, characters, etc.? Was it something that inspired you to start doing it, or did it just slowly start happening naturally? So I've always been interested in writing stories myself, and part of the reason that I got into what I do is because if I can learn how other authors and creators evoke emotions in me, and I can pinpoint how they accomplish that, then it's something that I can incorporate into my own work so I can evoke an emotion in my own future audience. I was an English student through and through, all throughout grade school, middle school, high school, so it's only really natural that I've always wanted to look deep into things and figure out how they work, the nitty-gritty of it. So this kind of just felt like the natural conclusion of it, becoming a YouTuber. But specifically with video games, I think it would be after I watched HBomberGuy's Pathologic video. I would say that he's probably one of my bigger inspirations when it came to the sort of tone that I implement when I talk about video games, because he's able to be critical and acknowledge why some things work for other people but don't work for others. And he's able to insert his own humor into it while also providing constructive criticism. So I think he was kind of the one that finally gave me a chance to see, oh, this is something that I might want to do in my spare time in the future. So I guess he might be the catalyst for me eventually getting into this. Who are some of your favorite content creators? So the McElroy brothers are my favorite podcast creators. Other creators that I like on YouTube, Thaf9, Sarah Zed, PhilosophyTube, HBomberGuy, Nightmind, Nexpo, and more recently, Martin Walls. They're all some of my favorite YouTubers that I've been listening to more recently, but one that's always been kind of a constant is Chugga Conroy. I haven't kept up with him recently because I fell super behind in his Xenoblade Chronicles 2 series and haven't had a chance to really jump back in yet. But I'm looking forward to whatever his next project is, and I have been planning on going back and listening to a few of his old videos. Why is your username what it is? So TinyLeaf was my Pop Tropica username back when I was maybe 12. And so when I started getting older and started creating more accounts as an adult, I eventually cycled back to it just because it was something that was easy, that I remembered, and I don't know, I just kind of always liked TinyLeaf. It just sounds nice. What was your original idea for your channel before you got into Danganronpa? So I would probably say it was more similar to my asexuality in media video, where I would take a bunch of different franchises and condense them down to talk about one particular issue in media as a whole. And I still will probably go back and do a few videos like that, but I do think I've kind of found my groove right now with the content I've been making for the past couple of videos, where it is a bit more focused onto one specific genre or video game. What do you use to make your videos? So I use a Canon TI, I think it's an 83. It's one I'm familiar with through school, so I got one for myself because it's something that I could continue to use even as I leave college. I use my phone to record all audio, so that's part of the reason why I'm currently saving up to get a microphone. As far as visuals and editing goes, I use Adobe Premiere Pro and After Effects to create the visuals that I use on screen. And I'm not sure if this is exactly what you wanted, but I also use Autodesk Sketchbook Pro for my drawings because that was what I got started with, and I've never been able to transfer over to something else because I don't like Adobe Photoshop. It's bad. What motivated you to start making videos? School. I mentioned it in the video description of my Let's Rewrite Danganronpa 2 Chapter 3 video, but that was a project that I made in one of my classes last semester. And the other 2 videos on my channel were also class projects that I decided to make public once I started getting some more attention. I've kept making videos since it turns out that a lot of you people apparently like what I say, and they liked what I did. So you guys are a good motivator for me, and you guys also help encourage me to continue making things that I can eventually use in the professional world, so kind of works out well. Do you ever plan on opening a Discord server in the future? Probably not. I'm familiar with Discord, and that's probably the reason that I don't want to start a server. I've had friends who've had bad experiences on Discord servers, and I think it would be a little bit overwhelming for me to try and manage one myself. I do appreciate the question, though. It's just something that I don't think would be very healthy for me. Do you have any other social media that we can follow you on? I have a Twitter account. This is it. Feel free to follow it. I'm not going to be very active on it. I might use it to tweet out occasional updates, but, yeah, I'm going to otherwise kind of stay off of it because for similar reasons, Twitter is kind of a hellscape. But yeah, so if you guys want to see me a little bit more, go ahead and follow it. I'll probably post my artwork, updates about videos, little sneak peeks. So if you're interested in it, go check it out. Which was your first Danganronpa game? Goodbye Despair was the first one I played myself, but before then I had watched a playthrough of Trigger Happy Havoc. So I did go in order, but I will say that it was definitely a lot better to play the second game for myself. I just wanted to watch someone else play the first game because I didn't know if it would be something I was interested in. What are your thoughts on the characters from Trigger Happy Havoc and Goodbye Despair? I might end up doing video essays about this later, but just in brief, Trigger Happy Havoc's cast, they're much simpler characters, but I also think that's why they're so appealing, at least to me. They kind of just feel like ordinary high school students to me, and they have relatable struggles. Taka is one of my favorite characters, and he's probably the one that I'd say I relate to the most. So I really like Trigger Happy Havoc's cast. I think the only complaints I have, they're just personal complaints. Although I will say that Hifumi was a choice. But even then, I can still kind of appreciate some aspects of his character. I just think he did a little bit dirty. Goodbye Despair's cast is easily my favorite. My least favorite character died in the first chapter, so from there, you could only move on up. Even though there were some questionable decisions made, especially in the third chapter, I really do like pretty much the entirety of Goodbye Despair's cast, and I can really understand why they're the most popular. They're fun, they have great designs. So yeah, I honestly need to stop myself from talking about Goodbye Despair students, or else this video is gonna go on forever. And speaking of which is your favorite Danganronpa game? Goodbye Despair. This is probably also going to be a video at some point in the future, but I felt like the gameplay was the most fun because the Trigger Happy Havoc's gameplay, it kind of felt a little bit odd, because that was before you could even consent to arguments. So I liked the additions that they made to the second game. Like I said before, the cast is my favorite, so that's a major plus in its favor. And I would say that out of the 3 games, I was the most satisfied with how Goodbye Despair ended. The first game kind of felt like it just sort of happened and it didn't really have enough build-up. And the third game, we'll talk about V3's ending in another video, but that I would definitely say that just no contest. Goodbye Despair is my favorite. What Danganronpa game do you think needs improved the most? V3? V3. I want to save most of my thoughts for that analysis video that is going to be up within the next couple of months. But to suffice it to say, I have a lot to say about V3, and as much as I love that game, I definitely think it had the room for the most improvement. What is your favorite trial from each game and why? In Trigger Happy Havoc, I would probably say that my favorite trial is trial number 2, because there are issues that I have with it, but I thought that the mystery was good. I really liked Genocide Jack's reveal in it, so that was really fun, especially since at that point I had a lot of issues with Toko. And Mondo and Taka's relationship is just really, really heartbreaking, and I just think Mondo might be one of the better culprits across the series. So I think that's probably why it edges out over my second favorite, Trial 4. Goodbye Despair's best chapter is obviously Chapter 3. I can't even say that. I think I'll have to go with Trial 4 for that one. I thought it was a very fun challenge to try and figure out how those godforsaken towers worked. The utilization of time management was also very interesting, and I thought Gundam's 4 Dark Devas of Destruction being implicated in the crime was so funny. And again, like, the motive was really interesting, and the reasoning that Gundam had for killing Nekomaru as opposed to anybody else. And then in V3, this is probably going to shock a lot of you, but Trial 3. Trust me, I am aware of how silly and stupid a lot of it is. Very aware. But a lot of the ideas that were presented in it were super interesting to me. I thought that Himiko's character development was a shining beacon, which is part of the reason why I like it so much. And despite the obvious, Korekiyo's voice actor did not have to go as hard as he did. It's definitely not the best written one in the game, and it's not even the one that invoked the most emotional response out of me. That one was Trial 4. But Trial 3 is really fascinating to me, and I think that it's the most memorable one for me, and that's why it's my favorite. Trust me, we're gonna get into all its issues eventually, but it's my favorite. I can hear everybody unsubscribing now. What is your favorite plot twist from each game? So the first game, it would probably be Sakura being a spy for Monokuma, because I really did not expect that to be coming, especially since she had been probably the most upstanding character thus far. And the pain was very unbearable when we found her body, and poor Aoi, it hurt. Second game, I don't know if this counts as a twist, but Nagito's luck being utilized as an actual factor in his own murder, that is just so cool to me. I love it when people's talents actually come into play with how the murder plays out, so I'm really upset they don't do it again. Third game, like I said before, Kaede being the killer in the first trial, and the sort of reveal that it has in Chapter 6, I thought it was very clever. I think they made it work, and it's so despairingly devastating. Who is your favorite character and why? So I got this question asked a lot, so I'm gonna kind of cheat and give you my favorites from each game. My favorite from Trigger Happy Havoc is Aoi. She's not the most complex character, but I thought her bubbly personality was a welcomed addition compared to the stoic nature of a couple of them, the clueless nature of a few others, and these two. I just thought that she was one of the more likable characters in the cast, and her relationship with Sakura was one of my favorites. From Goodbye Despair, if we pretend that the Danganronpa 3 anime doesn't exist, because that would influence my answer, I'd probably say Kazuichi, and I will get to that in a second. And then from V3, probably Maki. I like the journey that she goes on, and I do appreciate the fact that she always kind of remained cold and a little bit standoffish. It's one of those things that I appreciate being kept in a character, and she didn't just immediately fall to goo over the protagonist. It's one of my pet peeves with games. Plus, she's got a wonderful design. I love her hair. I love her red and dark black colors. I love Maki. Circling back to Soda, someone asked why Soda-kun was one of my favorite characters, and they left their own reasoning behind, which I won't share in case it's a little bit personal, but I wanted to say that I think it's very sweet that you have such a strong connection to him. My reasons for liking Soda aren't very deep, but part of it is because he was actually the first character that got me into Danganronpa. I found his design just browsing the internet one day, and I just fell in love immediately. The wild pink hair, the pointy teeth, the expressions, and I really do enjoy his character arc, even though I still think he could have been better and not be as much of a creep about Sonia as he is. But he was the first character I completed the free time events for, and I thought it was very touching that he finally came clean about the reasons he acted the way he did. He's definitely not a perfect character, but that doesn't change the fact that he's one of my favorites, and I would still probably say he's one of my favorites in the entire series. Who is your least favorite character throughout the series? You people are gonna hate me for saying this, but Toko. It's Toko. I'll start off by saying that I have heard she gets much better in Ultra Despair Girls, and I'm always willing to change my mind about her, because as a writer, I want to like the ultimate writer. But her abrasive personality, her creepy behavior towards Byakuya, her commenting about Aoi's breasts, and she makes me extremely uncomfortable to be around, and I think the fact that she's with us for the entire game of Trigger Happy Havoc is what edges her out over other characters like Mew and Taro Taro. I would like to enjoy her more, and who knows, maybe by the time I play Ultra Despair Girls, my mind will change. But as it is right now, I'm just not a fan of her. But I will say, though, that she's my least favorite character, but it's more of like a slight annoyance when I see her instead of like a deep, burning hatred. Of all the victims in the mainline Danganronpa series, which 3 would you replace with someone else as a survivor? I actually think that most of the survivors deserve to live as they are right now, or otherwise I don't have a problem with them living. However, since you asked, in Trigger Happy Havoc, I think it would have been nice if Taka got to live past Chapter 3. I saw this artist tweet something about it back in, I think it must have been June, where they kind of described the idea of him getting amnesia and then constantly forgetting what happened, but still remembering what it was like back in Hope's Peak Academy before everything went to hell. I'll throw their username up on there in case you want to come through their tweet history. But I just think it would have been very nice to see him combat the grief of losing Mondo, the horror of the outside world falling apart, and generally see his morals being tested as more people had to die or otherwise do despicable things in order to live. And I think if I had to pick someone else to die in his place, probably Hiro. And I say that as someone who actually likes Hiro and thinks that he deserved to live as much as everybody else did. And honestly probably deserved to live more than some of the other people. In Goodbye Despair, I stand by what I said in my rewrite video, and I think Hiyoko should have lived instead of Sonia. A lot of people disagree with me because they think Sonia was a major deciding factor in why Gundam chose to kill Nekomaru, which I think is a valid interpretation. I just happen to disagree with it. I think Gundam did it for the sake of everybody and not just Sonia. I think it's a little bit less interesting if he did it just to save the life of one girl as opposed to saving the lives of these people who he was watching suffer and thought he could actually do something to save all of them, including one of his very close friends. That's just my personal interpretation, and I agree. It's just mostly based in opinion. We don't know anything for certain, so please don't kill me. And in V3, I think more than 3 people should have survived, first of all. That's my biggest complaint. Spoiler, biggest complaint, only 3 people got to live. But if I had to choose someone to live, probably Ryoma. He deserved a chance to find a reason to live, and I'm very upset that he never got that. Would you ever want to cosplay a Danganronpa character for fun? Absolutely. I'm not sure who I would want to do, though, because not a lot of the characters have hair that matches mine, so I'd probably have to get a little bit creative with it. I think I could probably pull off a good Kokichi since the hair shape kind of fits, or Gonta. But yeah, I would really love to cosplay as somebody. If I did have a choice, though, like, if I could just go absolutely wild with the outfits and money wasn't an object, I think I might want to do Mondo. I think his outfit looks so cool, and I want to be cool like him. If you could have a talent in the Danganronpa universe, what would your talent be? I hope this doesn't make me sound like too much of a narcissist, but I think it'd be really cool to be the ultimate storyteller. So somebody who always holds the audience's attention, whether it's a true story, a fictional story, just the voice, or presenting it live on stage. I think that'd be a very fun talent, and I think it would also be funny to apply it to me, because if I don't have a script, I feel like I sound like an absolute loon. And a related question is, what would a Danganronpa character look like if you made it? Like this. For reference, I traced Mahiru's shape just to kind of like figure out how the body worked. This is the sprite that I used in particular. But I do kind of want to redraw her when I have the chance to, and maybe make her look a little more unique. If you were in Danganronpa, what motive would end up breaking you? I think the motive that would break me would probably be the starvation one in Chapter 4 of the second game. I wouldn't want to see all of my friends suffer, and I also wouldn't want to suffer that. Although I can't lie, I'd also probably want to take the free blood perk from the third game, just because I'm afraid of death. If you were a part of any game, who would you choose to kill? Bold of you to assume that I would not be the one killed. But if I had to choose somebody, I'd probably go with Kibo. Not because he's a robot, but because he's a robot. I'm very afraid of blood and gore, surprisingly. I don't know if with any other character I could justify killing somebody in order to escape. This isn't me like being robophobic towards Kibo. He's a perfectly fine character. I can't see myself having the guts to kill an actual flesh and blood person. And at least I could try to justify that since he's a robot, there might be a backup of him somewhere. And then this is an interesting question. What would your execution look like? I'm not sure yet. Honestly, I've been thinking about touching on the executions and what makes for a good execution sometime in the future. I think that would be a really great opportunity to make my own execution for the ultimate storyteller. But needless to say, you should know that there is a concept in video editing known as a rough cut. That would lead to some very interesting ideas. What are your thoughts on the Danganronpa 3 anime? I haven't watched the anime all the way through yet. I have looked up clips in the past just because I was curious how it looked. From what I know, I do think they copped out a little bit at the end in regards to how the characters got brainwashed. But I really liked the attention that they gave the ultimate imposter, and I would say that anime is responsible for me saying that they're one of my favorite characters, period. How do I feel about Ultra Despair Girls? I haven't played Ultra Despair Girls yet. I have heard things about it. I do own it, so I'm going to try to get through it eventually. But as it is right now, I honestly don't know much about it, but I do know that I'm probably going to have a lot to say about how the kids are treated, and so you can have that to look forward to. Have you heard of Your Turn to Die? Yes, I have. I do intend on playing it at some point. It's just going to be a while before I get to it. What Danganronpa fan game have you liked the most? I haven't played any yet, but the one that I'm the most interested in seeing is Project Eden's Garden. I've been following the development of that for quite a while, but I am familiar with another one. I think the title is Super Danganronpa Another. That one looks very interesting, and I do kind of want to check it out later. Will you make Let's Plays of future Danganronpas or Fanganronpas? No, I don't do Let's Plays. First of all, it just wouldn't be able to work with the setup that I have right now. I also tend to only play games in short bursts of time, and I really like to procrastinate while I do it. Plus, I don't think a lot of people fully realize how difficult it is to talk while also trying to focus on the game. Will you become a sort of theory channel? Chances are no. I'm not really into crafting theories myself. I prefer looking into others' theories. And most of the theories that I do have, they're very minor, and I don't think they would be very good for video content. Will you try and rewrite any other class trials besides 2-3? I am currently working on the script for rewriting the 3rd chapter of the 3rd game. The problem is that it's a lot more difficult to kind of figure out how I would rewrite it without fully taking away what I liked about the original. Because there is definitely a lot of things that I think need to be redone, but at the same time, I'm mindful of the fact that there is intention behind the decisions that they made, so I'm trying to figure out the best way to balance out what the creators wanted versus what I think would work better. But other than that, I don't know if I will rewrite any other chapters, but I might think about redoing a couple of executions because there's a few that I felt were particularly underwhelming, and quite a few people liked the one that I gave Mikon instead. So, we'll see. If there was any book, game, piece of media you could rewrite without worry about time or work, what would you want to tackle and why? So I actually have 2 that come to mind when you say that. The first one is Yandere Simulator. I was really interested in the game when it was first announced, and I followed the development for a couple of years before falling away from it, and it's a dark subject, but I would have really liked to have seen it come out sometime soon and given a little bit more thought, because the concept is very interesting to me. I just don't like some of the decisions that Yandere Dev made, and it's a whole mess to try and comb through, but that's one that I honestly have thought about doing a video for. But another one that I would want to redo, this one's more obscure, but there's this game called Y2K, sometimes known as Yeek, a postmodern RPG. I watched someone play through it for 24 hours. There was a lot of good ideas in that game, and it looks visually interesting, but oh my god, it was not very good. I don't know, there's a lot that I want to talk about it, but it's such an obscure game that I'm not sure anyone would want to listen to it. But Yik is probably the one that I would want to rewrite over Yandere Dev, solely because there was a lot of good ideas there that just weren't seen through. What can we look forward to once Danganronpa content is over? Danganronpa content is not going to be going away for quite a while. I do plan on spacing it out more often, but I am going to be touching on other subjects in between. Just kind of looking through my idea board right now, I kind of have it. I want to eventually talk about Zero Escape, the Nonary games. I'm in the process of playing the first game right now. But I also just have a lot of other ideas for a bunch of different franchises, both popular and less popular. It's just a matter of figuring out what angle I want to take on it. So you don't have to worry. There's going to be plenty of things to come in the future, time provided. It's just a matter of figuring out how I want to do things. And of course, I am always open for suggestions or feedback. What other video games do you want to feature on your channel? So Zero Escape is one of them. Project Eden when it eventually comes out. I want to talk about Life is Strange at some point because I think that's a game that has a bad rap, and it's one of those things that I want to kind of figure out what some people love about it and other people don't. I kind of want to talk about Fran Bow as well, Sally Face. I just have a lot of ideas. It's kind of hard, though, to pick which one I want to work on first. So I'm sure to probably turn to you guys in the future and ask what you would like to see. Any projects you're excited for? I think that this next Danganronpa video is going to be one of my magnum opuses. At least for a while. And that is the last question. Sorry if I happened to miss any, but this video was already getting very long. Who knows? I might do one of these again in the future. But thank you everybody for watching. I'm going to get back to work on my next video and school. In the meantime, take care, brush your hair, and I'll see you again soon. This is TinyLeaf, signing off.